Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's NASC webinar. I'm going to get started shortly, just allowing the doors to be fully open. I can see the participants' numbers going up. We had a nice 80 people register for this webinar, which is great to hear. So thank you very much. We hope you get some benefit out today. It is being recorded, so there'll be an opportunity to watch this back and also to share it with your colleagues and other people. I'm going to just reveal myself. Here I am. I'm Jamie Maguire, Head of Business Development at the NASC. Have a cracking panel today of people that have thankfully given up their time up today from within the NASC Scaffolding Contracting membership, as well as some of our friends from outside the NASC membership as well. So I'll introduce those in a second. Just a few more people to come through the door. If we load up the next slide, Marie, I'm just going to just talk about the panel. Then what we'll do is we'll all come on stage and you'll be able to see us, our beautiful faces. So today we have Simon Black, who's the Estimating Director at QS Scaffolding. We also have David Brown, Managing Director from IBN Scaffold Access. They're going to be talking from the scaffolding contractor's point of view. And then a bit later on, we'll bring up Dave Harris, the Head of Procurement at Kier Construction Strategic Projects, and also Mr. Robert Scriven, Head of Supply Chain at ISG. So a very good panel, and I really hope that everybody will benefit from today. So without further ado, we're going to share our screens now. So if I can invite Simon and David up to join us. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Simon and David, this morning. Just a little bit about yourself and your company, and also why you wanted to be part of today's webinar. So possibly, Simon, if you can just go first.
Okay. My name is Simon Black. I'm Estimating Director for QFS. I've been in this industry for 40 years plus, with the likes of Trad, Palmer's, PhD and SGB. I want to be part of this discussion, as I believe we can improve on the procurement and the management of the scaffolding on site. Yeah, that's simple as that, really.
Thank you. David?
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Brown. I'm the Managing Director of IBN Scaffold Access Limited, and I'm also currently the NASC President. I wanted to be part of this webinar today to hopefully give an insight from the subcontractors' side of view of sort of the procurement and the things that we do as a business to try and make the relationship between us and the main contractors as smooth as possible, to try and iron out some of the issues that have been highlighted within this webinar. And obviously, with me having some main contractor experience in a previous sort of part of my career, I can hopefully shed some balance on the issues as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. I do realise that I have omitted the poll that should have come before this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to park you two quickly, because I want you to be part of the poll as well. I'm going to set the poll up. If you can just all, this is the interactive, the good thing about having these little toys that we can do, we can get some information from you. So we'll just set the poll up quickly. There's just a few questions to answer. If that can be launched now, Marie. If you just answer these questions. There's 5. You just need to just select what applies to you. If you move down the just scroll down with your fingers or your cursor and answer the questions. It'd be really helpful. Right, I'm going to call it a day there. That's very good of you. Thank you very much. Share results. So here, these are the results. Hopefully you can see them. what's best described you. So the majority are scaffolding contractors on today's call, which is fine. This will be going out to RSES and other QS channels and procurement teams anyway via the YouTube channel, so they can watch it back. Do you feel there is a clear measure of quality for scaffolding access in the PQQ? No and unsure was the biggest percentage. Okay. What do you feel is key variable in the decision to choose scaffolding contractor? Price, which is not surprising to hear that, because that's why we're having today's webinar, is to look further into that question. What accreditations do you have? Majority NASC, CHAS, and a few common assessment standards in there too. So good to know. And have you lost a contract to a competitor you feel is of lesser quality and value? 92% yes. Okay, right. So that's the polls. Thank you very much for participating. I'm going to just close that down. Right. So we're going to start with just talking about procurement and estimating. And Simon, starting off with a positive first. We'd like to have an example where your approach has resulted in both your company and the principal contractor being hugely satisfied with the project, the price, the budget, and completion. What was the key reason for satisfaction?
Okay, so the key reason that we have type of projects that fulfill the customer's needs and our needs is that it's a two-way thing. We get all the information from the customer, what his requirements are. We then price the job as required in quotation form. We provide drawings and information, sketches, so he fully understands what he's actually getting for his money. He gets the subcontractor buys into the bid and fully understands. So really, it's a two-way thing. The more information that's been given, and it has been successful on numerous jobs, that's given by the client, and we provide the quote to you, that's been very successful. Really, it's just the transfer of information. And if you don't give the information, we don't know, then obviously variations actually happen. So it's basically, you need to understand what you're buying, and we make it clear in quotation form, and where we've been successful, where we're given a quotation, and it describes absolutely everything that you're getting.
So you're referring to at the very, very start of the tendering process?
All begins at the very start at planning stage. It can't be done halfway through. It has to be done at planning stage.
And when it comes to the actual conversations, a visit to the site, do you find that right. More helpful?
Yeah, so obviously what we expect from the client is that a proper defined scope with marked up drawings is a start. You then visit site, or you visit the office, discuss the project at hand, discuss everything from scaffolding, obviously, but all the other incidentals that impact on scaffolding, such as cranes, passenger goods hoists. If you have noise restrictions, then all need to be ironed out and defined, so we understand exactly where we're going to be halfway down the contract, where we are. So it's important that the information is given out.
Okay, thanks. David, what in your opinion, obviously you made reference to the fact that you've done the previous life as a QS, so you kind of know what you wanted to receive back in those days, and there's also your new life as an MD of a scaffolding business. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, it's all about the engagement with one another and getting that from day one. Absolutely right. What we do as a business from IBN is we go out and meet with the clients and understand their requirements. So we'll sit there and we'll ask them who's going to be using the scaffold, what trades are going to be on there, what's the sequence of your work, so that we can look at what adaptations are required on the scaffolds, how many loading bays are you looking at, how many staircases are you looking to do, and we'll give them a full shopping list of what they can have. and then the main contractor can make that decision as to what their budgets can afford to put in place on the site, and then also what they actually need and what they can fit on with the site sort of limitations that they've got there. What we do is we offer to go in and do the scaffold schedule with them. So we help build the shopping list, and we know that that's going to get sent out to other scaffolding contractors for obviously competitive prices to make sure that they're getting best value for money. But by us doing that, we've got confidence that when our quotation's being compared against another 2 or 3 scaffolders, that they're like-for-like quotations, and it's not that we've interpreted it one way and that the other scaffolders have done it another way, because obviously that can cause sort of a big variance in the price. So by doing that and helping our clients, we can give them a clear list of what they actually need. And it's all about sort of going and seeing these people, going and seeing them face to face, building relationships, and actually getting that connection there. If you're just emailing people, you'll miss out on this sort of information. So go and sit with them, go and have a look at what the site actually looks like, go and have a look at what they're actually going to be building as a project, and then from there you've got a real great understanding of what they're going to need, and then you can provide them with the quotation that will have all of that information in it, and then it's very clear from day one what you're setting out to provide them on that project.
Yeah, so basically, when you do a schedule and you've done it for the client, you know that it's going to go out to other scaffolding contractors. They're going to get a comparison like for like, because many a time you think they're looking at the price at the bottom line, and it's completely done differently. And this is the biggest bugbear. It's never like for like for a lot of jobs that we price, never like for like.
So it's fair to say it's very difficult for the scaffolding, for the procurement side of the businesses, as well as the scaffolding contractors trying to get it right. I think this is why we are here today, to try and you know, educate and share information to help.
Yeah.
Go forward. Moving on to talk about some of the frustrations, because it's, you know, we know there are definitely frustrations out there. We hear a lot from members that surveyors sometimes do not understand the quotations that come in from scaffolding contractors. Do you think that's unfair? Perhaps it's just, we sort of mentioned, due to the variety of different tenders that come in different ways and shapes and forms. Is that an unfair thing to say?
Yeah, it is, to be honest. The quality of the quotations that get sent out, they do have all the information that is on there. It's the lift heights. It's about us helping educate the clients and the main contractors as to what the terminology actually is and what it is that they're looking at on the quotations. You can do that by adding in marked up drawings. You can do that with certainly the software that is available on the market there. You can even do 3D images of what the scaffold will actually look like. You can get your designs and sort of get them sent out to them as well. There are ways and means of being as clear as what you want to be. And if you give a clear and transparent quotation that then goes into an order, it's crystal clear to everybody involved and what's included in that order, and then what isn't included in that order. And then hopefully there's none of these sort of grey areas where disputes can arise.
What I have noticed of late in the last couple of years is that they send out, the main contractor, a pricing schedule, but they just want you to fill the pricing schedule and a rate, and that's all they're interested in. We don't do that. We obviously fulfill the pricing, the schedule, but on top of that, we qualify the bid with a quotation. So I'm seeing an awful lot that they're not interested in all the gump that goes with a quotation. They just want you to price the schedule, and that is a real big problem.
So what, in your opinion, what would help?
Okay, so it's okay pricing a pricing schedule, and if the contractor says, okay, QFS, you've secured that, that's great, but you've got to submit after that a quotation to qualify the bid. You know, the customer asks for a scaffold, you give them a price, and all it is a price, and maybe an extra rental rate and a metre squared rate. but it doesn't define your loadings, how you're going to do it. So that element of skill has been sadly omitted in the industry at the moment, and a lot of scaffold companies.
David, anything to say on that?
Yeah,
yourself?
by pricing just purely on a schedule and just filling in an Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't give you the opportunity as a scaffolding contractor to set out your stall for what your quote is actually based on. It doesn't let you say what the access arrangements are when you're going to be making deliveries. It doesn't set out how you're going to undertake those works. All the spreadsheet is numbers and a price. Our quotations actually describe how the works are going to be undertaken and in sort of how we've actually got to the quotation and what is included within that. So yeah, the quotation is key to be sort of accepted and form part of the order, because it gives clarity to everybody as to what you've actually priced.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, frustrations obviously at the start of the contract. Clearly, I think we've talked a bit about how they can be rectified or eradicated with information overshare, if anything. Frustrations also when on site. How do they have an impact on scaffolding contractors? I mean, we're talking about the things that if they're not covered at the start, then they start to appear during the build process or during the dismantle process, the hire process, that things like that. What are those kind of frustrating things there that you scaffolding contractors have to deal with, that you think that procurement teams and QSs should be a bit more wise to? Simon?
Well, I can answer that really. It's going back to the beginning. It's a proper scope. If it's a proper scope it's done, you won't have half the problems that you're having on site with variations. If you do a qualified or do a defined scope and we qualify a bid, you understand exactly what we're providing, what we're not providing, and it will reduce the amount of variations. It won't eradicate the variations, because it's with that industry. It's just one of those things, but you can vastly reduce the amount of variations if you do the work at the beginning with a defined quotation.
Yeah. Okay. David, anything to add before we talk to the other side, as it were?
Yeah, it's to be honest, my life as a scaffolding business owner or co-owner would be a lot easier if we didn't have additional works. I would love to just go on, do the order for the agreed value that we've got, and then sign our final account and move on to the next project. But unfortunately, like Simon's just said there, this is construction and there's changes that we have on there. You've got program changes, you've got sequencing changes, you've got the weather that sort of impacts what we can actually do. So all of these things will build into potentially causing variations on site. And it's how you set about managing those variations and getting a process in place, first of all. So when you go to your pre-start meeting, it's a case of sitting down with the QS and the project team and establishing, right, there are going to be variations on here because we just know it's construction and these things happen. So how do we cope with this? How do we manage it? Are you happy for us to sign AWO sheets and then get priced on a schedule of rates and work on that, and then we manage them on a monthly basis with meetings? Or do you want everything quoted up front so that you know exactly what is the value of the scaffold before we undertake the additional works? Now, when you quote up front, that adds a time process onto it and causes obviously a program issue. So some main contractors will just want you to get on with the work and price off a schedule. And it's finding that balance. It's finding who is authorized to give you those instructions. There's no point getting all of your sheets and your instructions signed by the site labourer who's got no authority on the project whatsoever. You need to make sure that the QS and the project manager or the other authorised signatures are the only ones giving those instructions, because otherwise all you're doing is creating a massive problem for yourself as the account goes on. So get those parameters set up when you're at the pre-start. Find out who can give you the instructions and how you're going to be valuing and working with those instructions going forward. And that takes a lot of the heat out of it then, because you've got a process in place and you can always revert back to that process. And it's all about just setting the relationships up and making sure that everything is as clear as possible to the main contractor. And that should alleviate an awful lot of the issues that you can encounter.
Yeah, so I would suggest agreed schedule of rates would eradicate a lot of problems. So when changes do happen on site that need to be have to happen, it could be covered by an agreed schedule of rates.
Yeah, what we ask of our contracts team when they're out on site, or the QSs that we've got when they're doing the site visits, if they see that we're being asked to do anything by the project team, or the sort of you hear conversations on site, go and see the commercial team, go and see the QS, and just pop your head in the door and just say, you do realise your project team are looking at putting a huge bird cage in the atrium. Do you actually need that? Are you aware of it? Because a lot of the time, the QSs aren't aware of what the project teams are requesting out on site until it's actually happened. And by that point, it's too late. And a lot of the time, it could be actually in another contractor's package that they were to provide their own access. So the QS has already got it covered by having it in another subcontractor's package. So he doesn't need to be paying us to do it. So it's all about just sticking your sort of head in, sort of having a relationship and asking the questions. And then if you're being upfront with them, no one can ever come back to you and say that, well, you've hidden this from us, you've not told us about this. It's far better to just have that conversation and then sort of see where you ride out from there.
Brilliant. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much for those opinions and responses. I didn't say again, I admitted I'm being a very, very terrible host. I do apologize. I didn't instruct you guys that to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. At any point you want to fire a question, there will be questions at the end for the whole panel. But there was a question that came in actually that I wanted to just bring up now, David, to you particularly because you know your history is sitting on NASC committees, particularly the contracts committee, and there was a question that came in from James Briley, Rose System Scaffolds, who said, are NASC looking at putting together a best practice scaffold schedule so NASC members can help main contractors and NASC members, including purpose, use, SWL, tie information, adaptions, hire periods, etc. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I believe if we have a look at the contracts guidance notes that are available, there is a checklist for the scaffolding contractor already in place there that we can go through, and that takes you right through from the procurement tender stage that we've just discussed there, right away to basically your first day on site, that you can actually work through and find out those basically questions. And the idea of that is that for myself and Simon, that are obviously directors, asking our team, have you thought about this? Have you got an answer for this? And then you can work through the checklists. And if you find, no, I've not asked that question and I've not got that sorted out, you can go back to the main contractor. So there is a guidance note available. Now, I can find that guidance note. I'll be honest, I don't know the exact number of that one, but it is definitely available on the NASC website.
Cool. Well, if you if you two will now just go into the green room, the virtual green room, so you maybe can look it up and come back with the. I
can do. Fortunately, I know James, and I will be able to make contact with him after the webinar as well. So I'll point
on behalf of everyone here, let's get the answer to everyone if you can. So thank you, David and Simon. If you just can kindly remove yourself. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next part, which is to talk to our esteemed guests today. So please welcome Dave Harris, the head of procurement at Kier Construction Strategic Projects, and also Mr. Robert Scriven, head of supply chain at ISG. Just again, like we did with the previous two, if you just a quick bit about you and why you wanted to join today's webinar, starting with you, Dave.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dave Harris. I'm the head of procurement for Kier Construction Strategic Projects. That's the major projects arm of the Kier Construction business. I operate nationally, so I do interface with all of our regional businesses and often their supply chains, given where people can work and all that sort of stuff. So I'm always very keen to try and bridge the gap between subcontractors and main contractors. I think there's a lot of mystery and, quite frankly, not the best behaviour from main contractors. And I think, you know, I totally agree with what Simon and David were saying earlier. Is you know, the early work and the relationships and getting in there and really reminding main contractors what they really should be doing anyway does pay massive dividends. You know, I'm keen to sort of demystify things, and most people know what reality is, but sometimes we have to remind people.
Okay. Thank you. And to you, Robert.
Yeah, so Robert Scriven, I'm the head of supply chain for ISG. I cover both UK and Europe from a supply chain management perspective. We, as most of you on this call will know, we can do anything from our ISG retail division, which could be a £10,000 contract, all the way up to multi-million pound contracts. So we have to have a diverse supply chain on our books. And yeah, I agree with what Dave was saying. Sometimes there needs to be that reality check to say, you know, we need to be engaging up front more. We need to, from a main contractor perspective, really listen and qualify those bids properly to make sure there aren't any discrepancies between the quotes, but then not give away competitive advantage either.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a good start. You know, you've heard what the scaffolding contractors have said, and you're already listening or reminding yourselves that we need to listen, and how important the early parts are to the contract and the relationship. I want to start off with my first question is, as you know, there's a majority of NASC members on the call. How important NASC membership is in your procurement process, and is there anything else that you consider important in your procurement? So, Dave, over to you first.
Okay, sure. Well, look, within Kier, we align to the NASC as we are a member, you know, of Building UK, and our interests are in there. And a lot of our guidance to our internal teams on how they need to progress scaffolding, how they need to do it, is aligned to the NASC health and safety guides. So we view it as very important. It isn't necessarily a no-go, but it's very strong that we know the standard we're going to get. We know the you know, people involved in calls like this. That's very key for me to maintain a consistent standard across all of our businesses. Yeah, I don't want to steal Robert's thunder either, because there are a number of other things that would always help coming in from our client's point of view. But yeah, again, it's important to me. I think it should be done. I think you will benefit from being a member of the NASC, and that only pays dividends to me because I know what I'm going to get.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Robert? Oh, Robert's on mute. Need that t-shirt. You're
Typical.
on mute.
Typical. So yeah, completely agree with what Dave just said. It is important to us. It isn't a go no go. However, if you're not a NASC member, you do have to go through additional approval to get the order out within ISG. So we do have approval steps behind that from a health and safety point of view, but also the director of the relevant business units. We do ask as part of our pre-qualification process to sign up to our scaffolding minimum standards, which funnily enough links back to a number of NASC documents, which obviously then guides people to yourselves and on that journey. And I suppose the realm of pre-qualification is changing as well. The world that we're getting involved in is becoming more of an ESG cybersecurity focused world as well. So there's higher priorities being mandated by our clients, no doubt Kier's clients, probably some of the similar clients, and we are forever adapting. So it's not just a tick, I've got NASC, but actually, have you got cyber essentials? Have you got the right certification to go in and do prison work or MOD work? Do you have a modern slavery statement? Are you, working towards, say, I suppose, an anti-slavery policy? Do you have rights, the appropriate right to work checks? All these things are now coming as standard as part of pre-qualifications, and it's a ever-growing feat that I know for a lot of the people on this call will see actually us completing that pre-qualification as a day out of the office, generating profit, and it's how do we balance that so that way your business is sustainable, we're getting the information we need to firstly satisfy our clients, but also make sure that our supply chain is sustainable as well.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, both of you are members of the NASC as information members, which is a category membership that we like to give. We give it absolutely free because we want you guys to be more ingrained into what our members are doing, what the scaffolding industry is doing. Is there more, do you think, that the NASC and our members, or maybe it's just the NASC, can do to help so when it comes to the contracts? Maybe we need to start introducing more questions to the audit process, because I know I don't want to add more questions to the audit, but would that help them if we were to focus on things you talk about, ESG, CSR, cybersecurity, into our audit process? Do you think that would be helpful to the NASC members, Robert?
I think it won't be auditing them. I think it's the education piece. It's the actually saying, look, we don't order you, but we're going to put on this free of charge training module, or we're going to provide an online glossary of information you might need to know. A lot of the audits, the conversations I have, and rightly so, like ISG have been through, Kier have been through, it's more of a lack of understanding on where to start. And then you start on that journey, actually things start to materialize faster than what you might think. We've done a number of things like right to work audits or modern slavery audits across the piece, and no one has any negative or poor intentions. A lot of people, it's the understanding of what actually does that mean. What does that visa look like? How do people get away with not having, having fraudulent documents on site? What should we be looking out for? And it's those simple things that if we can pass on in a forum like the NASC or other linking into things like the supply chain sustainability school and other areas where that training is available, it definitely is going to help, and it's going to move the companies in the right direction.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Dave, in layman's terms, I guess, really, an example of a quote that you received from a scaffolding contractor that you thought was, top notch and tickety boo. Is there anything? Is there like a success story, if you like, most that would be helpful for our members to hear on the call?
Well, yeah, again, as David alluded to earlier, is getting in early with your contractor, because they need to understand, and they do, that the access strategy on a project can make or break it, and there is no point hiding anything. There's no point forgetting or omitting to say that we need to take a half a facade off to get a handling unit in. Do you know what I mean? If you don't know that, you're going to be at a disadvantage, and you're not going to be like for like and bits and pieces like that. And I think the success stories are, yes, when we can get involved early, we can get a schedule produced that is going to be recognizable to NASC members, and again with the sort of standard how you put them together, without taking IP away. It's very important that again, I don't think there are many surveyors or procurement guys that deliberately want to go out and share these things to make a spurious extra pound here or there. I'm sure there are, but the majority of people want to get a good job. They want to do it safely, and they want to do it for the right price. So again, I think the success we've had is making sure we are comparing like for like, and that is having a schedule that everybody can work to. If you've got a contractor who is saying that's my pricing schedule, as Simon said, you get a lot of, and I've seen it. Again, it's the education piece, trying to say, well, look, this is how we need to present it. We know you're going to have adaptations. Let's talk about those. What happens when the program moves? Your schedule doesn't allow for that. Your schedule doesn't reflect that I've got to come in, erect it. I then need to hire it. They need to come in and take it down. I think visibility of the prices and the lump sums helps the guys compare, obviously, because the more detail there is, the more things you can compare. Again, I don't want to sound like a scratch record, but rates and prices for adaptions, personally, for a scaffolding package, if they're not inviting you in for a mid-tender meeting, you need to go and ask for one. Because again, as you said, you are the right hand business to a project, because if you're not doing things, if you're not adapting, you're not moving, or the scaffold isn't going down when we need it, again, everything grinds to a halt. And I think giving confidence in the contractor that you are the experts, because of course you are. You know, contractors will pretend they know everything. There's a bit of bravado on some sites, and sometimes the relationship and how you manage people will get you to the right answer. It's a soft skill, but it often works. Again, people just want to do the best, and they want to win, and they want to make sure they're making money. If they really understand supply chain, we need to make sure you're making money, because if you're not making money, you're not going to do anything for me. You're just going to do what it says on the tin and get out of there. You know, I say examples of success stories is quite difficult, but again, it works when we've got a relationship, when we're talking. I guess something else David said was about commercial and operations not talking, and operations will ask for something and a surveyor will have it in a different package. Absolutely 100% that. It's one of my things. I have to go into regions and make sure these people talk. If you can facilitate that, if you can help it, it's protecting you. It's also getting them talking and making sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Robert, anything to add from I move on to...
If I'm going to be honest, not really. It is that communication. It's being open, transparent with us. And even if that person doesn't want to hear it, tell them, because sometimes it's so easy to not give the negative news or to gloss around the negative points. And that's the things that we need to understand up front. You know, if we're getting a quote in that's got something completely missing, but you're just going to price the schedule of rates that we've sent out, you're not telling us that there's something missing, then we're going to have 5-6 quotes, whatever it might be, that are potentially completely wrong. If you tell us, at least that way we've got time to adjust and try and get everyone onto a level playing field.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, you talked a bit, well, obviously we're focused on scaffolding because we're the scaffolding people. Is there anything from any of the other trades that you, because you work with all other trades, that you think that maybe the scaffolding fraternity could learn from, you know, simply, is there anything that the other trades do when it comes to the quotation process, or even during on site, that you feel we could learn from?
Well, yeah. Again, as Robert said, the other accreditations, the approach in the industry to your workforce and how you control your your sustainable and what you do into your vans and things like that. It's a key for me. Again, as a national contractor, I do have a few subcontractors that are nationwide in the scaffolding, but there's an awful lot of local, and we need to look at what we're doing with CO2. So about, you know, giving the extra information you might not have been asked. That really helps buyers and surveyors. You know, where's your yard? What about your labour pool? I also think the approach to the contract, a lot of the supply chain in the last 5 or 6 or 10 years are getting a lot better at subcontracts and understanding what they're being asked to do. And also kicking back when it's not necessarily relevant. And I think showing that understanding of the contract and looking at, if you're under an NEC type contract, well, is it right for you to have a full document, or should you be looking at a short form? Again, understanding the payments, how things are going to work, and offering that extra bit. That's where everybody else is. I mean, again, I'm quite lucky. My experience with scaffolders has always been very positive for the most. And again, that is understanding, yes, you're a subcontractor. Yes, you've got to do your applications. Yes, you've got to work to a program. But actually, there are some other bits you don't need to. And it's selecting what's right for the environment, because every project is different, even if you're putting cookie cutter buildings up, you know. Everything has its own nuances, and giving it that attention, I think. But again, from what David and Simon were saying, that's the attitude we're supporting, is getting out there and treating every job as a job itself, getting a relationship in there. It's not just a price, mate, there you go. I also think this may be controversial, and it's easy for me to say, but I think you should be selective with your clients. If you're not getting clients that are open to your innovation, they're not giving you the right opportunity to price things. Then again, why chase after that? You should be closer to fewer, and you want people that A, allow you to make money, B, allow you to be safe and get everyone home safe every day. So why wouldn't you want to keep working with them?
That's a very valid point. I think it's you know, yeah, maybe that needs to be taken more into consideration. It's difficult to speak on behalf of every scaffolding company, because some will be crying out for, we need more work, and some will be, actually, we are selective. Someone who couldn't make this call earlier, who's already put a question into me this morning, has said that they've stopped working for, I mean, they mentioned Kier, because of the, you know, reasons, but they just weren't feeling that they were getting the support there, and they've decided to sort of walk away. So that is something to consider. I wanted to bring it back to something that was mentioned before, that was sort of important to the whole, you know, modifications and things that QSs and procurement teams can sometimes do, and that was the removal of things from the quotes, like protection fans was one example used. You know, that decision's been made. It's not advisable from the scaffolding contractor, but you know, what do you do to ensure, you know, safety measures are given due weight? Let's go to Robert with that one.
So I think there's two things here. There's things that are going to be emitted that don't have a health and safety or any formal risk. If there's no risk in removing it, it's something that we've asked for and it's potentially not required on site, absolutely leave that with the commercial decision, leave that with the operational decision. They don't require it. That works. Where there's a health and safety or any form of risk that could cause problems across the life cycle of the job, I mean, that's where you need to be escalating, in my opinion. If we're starting to say, remove this now, and this is not just getting close to the guys on site, this is saying, actually, who's the regional director of that business unit? Who's the health and safety director of that business unit? Who do I need to speak to make sure things are done appropriately and in the right way? And if someone is, you know, and I've had whistleblowing calls to myself about things that have happened on an ISG site, and I'm, you know, proud to admit that, you know, we've taken them seriously. We've actually rectified problems, and by flagging it to myself, this allows us to adjust our process, our procedures, our policies internally to stop this from happening again. And just by you escalating and, you know, speaking with, you know, the commercial lead or the regional director, whoever it might be, that could actually avert a significant issue. And we would rather you be honest, frank with us and escalate than just leave it to someone that's looking to save a few pounds here and there.
Okay, so escalate it. Don't be scared to go up the chain.
I can talk for all my senior managers that if you escalate something that's going to cause a health and safety risk on a site, they will thank you.
Okay, all right, that's great. Dave, anything from you to add on that?
Well, again, yeah, there is no excuse for doing anything unsafely at all, and all main contractors are very proud of stating that. So, as Robert said, that's what we support. And if we do have people that aren't doing that, we need to hear about that, because we need to stop and do it and understand the reasons why they are. I mean, again, I think as far as my business is concerned, as I said earlier, we use the NASC literature. We use that to know what we should be asking and what we should be doing. And again, I think using the right trusted supply chain allows us to listen to what you guys are saying and identify those risks that maybe we haven't. And again, back to program and disclosure on adaptions is a bit of a mantra with us. Is, you know, all an accident is, it's usually the result of an unplanned event, whether that's an accident in pricing, an accident physically on site. If it's not planned and thought about, it will be done too quickly. It won't be done correctly. So again, getting in early and making sure that we always go to the far end of everything. What would happen if we did this? And let's have a look at all the eventualities. How's our sequencing going to work? Open and honest and upfront is the only way you eradicate accidents. And again, for having a trusted supply chain that's sitting there going, no, you can't remove that fan because that's going to do that.
Yeah.
We need to be able to trust you guys, and I think we should.
I mean, that will be music to the ears of NASC members. So it's really good to hear that. Pass it up the chain. If there's any particular instance with ISG and Kier that a member maybe on this call there's opportunity to raise it. You've got two very important people here, so use the Q&A please, and we're going to move on to questions now. I'm going to bring up everyone from the panel now. So I've got a few offline questions and I've got a few online questions that have come in. This will be good. I think we've been pretty fair and balanced so far. So I'll go to the offline question, and this will be for Robert and Dave. This is from Ray French from RPF Scaffolding. This is that scaffolding by its nature is considered as temporary work. So why do some main contractors, I should say, insist on withholding retentions? Also, scaffolding can only be defective after it's come down. What would you say to that, Robert, Dave?
Go on, Robert, you go first.
Okay. Look, a lot on retentions. And I agree. Like, the scaffolding is a temporary work. Typically, temporary works packages won't have retention added. Typically, there were times where it's needed. However, majority of the time, from our point of view, it shouldn't be added. This isn't, and this goes to not just scaffolders, but across the industry itself. There needs to be a look into what we are actively doing with retentions, how long they've been held for, what is going on with the client, and how we pass that down through the supply chain. And it is more of an industry problem than it will be just what the NASC can look at or what ISG or Kier can look at. We need to tackle that head on and look at ways that we can either eradicate or look at better solutions to retention going forwards.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, again, it's trying to get into the head of why someone's doing that on temporary works. And again, I've experienced when, you've got a price for erection and hire of a scaffold and it's been placed like that. You've got no incentive to put it down, for example. You might have surveyors that think that way. So I think to deal with it in a local instance, if it's happening to you, it is to sit and question to go, what's it for? And if it is for something reasonable, that we want to make sure that you get this down when you tell us and it leaves my site and I'm free to go, you go, okay, well, let's look at dismantling costs. Let's look at something like that, so we don't have to be holding retention. It's an admin burden. It's a pain in the bum. Frankly, the package values for scaffolding aren't going to bring a lot of retention to a project that it helps cash balances. So it's probably not for that. So again, I think it's understanding it. If it's just a step down from a main contract, well, where are their scaffolding costs? Mine are usually in prelims that are fixed, and I'm just being paid them. I'm not being held retention on. So I think it's getting into the guts of why they're doing it. If they can't give you a good reason, then it's probably for cash. And should we be accepting that? I don't think we should.
Okay. David Brown, you put your hand up like you almost wanted to come in on that. So have you got something to add? You're on mute, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no reason why retention should be taken on scaffolding companies. We don't form part of the final build with temporary works. And like Dave just put, the costs from the main contractors are typically in the prelims where they don't get retention taken off. You shouldn't accept retention, and we should sort of stand strong on that scaffolding does not require retention to be taken on it. Typically, we use our own materials or they're hired in materials. So there's never any fear of us not coming to dismantle the projects, because quite honestly, I want my materials back to go and put on another project. So we will always, once they account, we've got agreements and we're in the dismantle processes, we'll come and dismantle as you would do on the program. As I said, there's no reason to hold it. It's an archaic system and it needs modernizing, and we need to move on from it.
Well said. Okay. Sorry, there's a bit of feedback. Yeah. Just, right. I've got some questions from the floor now. They're both anonymous. So One is I deal with many clients, principal contractors, and the pre-requirement is and always will be a huge problem until we grab the bull by the horns. Many do not even know what a client brief or a design brief in accordance with temporary works actually includes or what information is required in one. Issue this to many scaffold contractors and is easily defiable on whether you are dealing with quality business or shabby business. Maybe it's time the NAC took this forward and learn the industry. For instance, the G0112 WinVic document is a fantastic tool which works perfectly with the S61 design briefs, as David will know. However, I go over to another site and the other site teams are clueless. Kind of a question, well, a statement in the question, but any response to that from the panel?
Just on that, it's all about the information that the client gives you and what information you provide with them, and getting this scope of works defined and getting your design brief sorted out so that when you're issuing your designs, it's clear for everybody what is actually going to be built, and also then how it's going to be built as well. And it's all about communication with one another. And obviously with that question there, it sounds like they know WinVic's policies sort of quite well. It is a case of just looking at what one main contractor does and what others ones do. And you can, as a subcontractor, we have the benefit of going into various different main contractors. So we can advise them and say, Kier, for instance, are doing this works, or ISG are doing this, and this makes it easier for us. They'll be frightened of actually saying that you've experienced some other projects and it's worked, because it should make your life easier as well.
Thank you, David. We're going to move on to the next question. So again, anonymous. So often is the case that the surveyor says you are over our budget, or every tender has come back over budget. However, with little to no pre-engagement with the supply chain, it seems absurd for the main contractor to be in a position to say, my budget's right, your tender is wrong. Is this just a case of lazy surveying, and how best to tackle this? Robert, you winching at that one. So
yeah. This, in my experience, has usually been where we've tendered with a provisional sum, we've put our own number in, and we've ended up going to market, and all costs have usually blown the provisional sum. Yeah. So at which point then we're using a budget which has been fixed, and when we've gone out to market by ourselves, and we then have won a job on the back of that, and it's not meeting the expectation for the commercial lead who's been handed this from the estimators, realistically. Now, we are getting better at this. However, if you're not getting any feedback and you're not able to get meetings, this comes back to the earlier points where we're saying you need to get your way in there. You need to find us, either a way to engage with that commercial team, whether that is meeting them at the office, or it's meeting them on site. But the earlier you can do that, the more you can build the relationship and have really honest questions about actually where is the budget, where we're lying, what needs to be done. And then, if things are going to go massively over that, what they estimated it to be, then it's not going to come as a shock. And you're not going to get 4 emails sent out saying, you're over budget by this, you're over budget by this across the market. It's, I suppose, that initial dialogue, tracking the right person down, having those conversations early on. And if you're not getting any luck, who do you escalate to then? And it's then going up that escalation chain to say, got a problem here, we think we're going to be over budget, or we're not getting any dialogue. It's an important trade coming on site, huge ramifications from a health and safety point of view. You're not engaging with us. Who do I need to speak to get further access to that site?
And maybe the NASC can do more and be available as a middle person between scaffold contractor when they do obviously they should take it upon themselves to try and advance it up the chain and go through your teams initially. But if they don't get there with our relationships that we have with each other, then maybe that's something that we can help with.
Definitely bridging the gap and understanding who's the senior stakeholders in each of obviously ISG's offices, but also Kier's offices, and understanding who they need to speak to. That would help. It means it's obviously we're not fielding essentially hundreds of emails every week saying who do I contact from all the trades, but at least you can support the scaffolding side.
Yeah, well, I think we'll take that away. We have a board member here today as well, so that's always good to hear these things. I'm going to move on to next question, which two more, unless there's anything else comes in, then we can call it a day. Would Kier and ISG consider moving to a 30-day EOM payment terms? 60 to 90-day EOM is a considerable barrier to many for being able to work for main contractors with this policy. Dave?
Well, I'll go with that one. I mean, look, Kier's payment practices are published. Yes, there are a number of contracts that are on 60 days, but our average time to pay is actually 32 days from the period July to December 23. A lot does depend. I'm pretty lucky. I work on a lot of government institutions and I'm dictated by payment terms via a main contract. So of course we have to work for that. It's an age-old question, isn't it? It's decided way above my pay grade. So I'm, whilst we are always feeding back supply chain information through into Kier Construction up to group, a lot rests on what Kier Group decide for us, really. Like I say, I'm quite lucky. It depends on the project and the sector we're working on will dictate that actually I'm probably a bit more favourable to work for than other businesses.
Robert?
Very similar to Kier, we're again one of the fastest payers in the industry that's reported against. We have a number of contracts that are on 30-day terms. We do a lot in the public sector space, and we are heading in the right direction. We have some of the most advantageous terms in the industry, and we're looking to maintain that even from even looking outside. We haven't got any terms on 90 days. The maximum we'll go to will be 60, and the majority are on less than that.
What I would add as well is managed supply chains and tried and trusted subcontractors. That includes scaffolders, and what I said about getting closer to fewer. As those relationships develop and blossom, it is a two-way street. A managed supply chain isn't the fact that you've just got a name on our lists. We'll support you, you'll support us, and payment terms and agreed terms of contract isn't unheard of as you're sort of phase 2 into being a preferred subcontractor.
Okay. Interesting responses. Hopefully that's allayed some of the fears or made some people happy on this call that maybe not getting that that payment. And of course, if it goes beyond the contracted rates, contracted timescales of payment, then of course, they might be wishing to use the NASC to help in that regard, to have conversations. But I mean, it's good to hear the average is 32 days, and ISG, are keen payers too. It's a massive issue for scaffolding contractors.
And just jumping on that, Jamie, the payment terms usually are up for negotiation. When if they're wanting to use you as a scaffolding contractor, as a specialist that they're wanting to get on, if someone's dictating to you that it's 60, 90 days and that doesn't suit your business, don't be afraid to say no and ask for better terms. If they're wanting to use you, it's because of the service and the quality that you're offering, and stand up and actually have the confidence in the products and the brand that you've got and say, no, we'd like 35-day, we'd like 42-day payment terms. That's more in keeping with the industry norms. And actually ask the question, and 9 times out of 10, there is usually room for negotiation and movement on it. And if they're steadfast in those days, you've got to look at your business model and think, well, do we need to take on that? Do we need those 90 days? And don't be afraid to say no. And look for other people that offer you better terms. That's the only way that you'll reduce these down, is by moving away from them and working for people that do offer favourable terms.
Well said. The final question for the day, and then we'll have final thoughts from everybody. It's aimed at to Robert and Dave, and that is: are you aware of the thorough NASC audit that our scaffolding contractors have to go through? I mean, have you sort of been through it? Have you seen the questions that our members have to answer? Does it give you kind of confidence that that what you've got to get is a scaffolding contractor who has had to go through some very serious hoops in order to be an NASC member.
Yeah, I've been with one of our health and safety managers and actually reviewing new scaffolding subcontractors who wanted to get into to our business and start working for us, and it was quite interesting following him on his yard tours and the office tours, and the questions that were being asked was quite revealing. And you know, I know that it was following the NASC sort of procedures, because like I've said to you, that's our published guidance is the NASC guidance. So yeah, I'm well aware of it. And again, I think what I always like to see is, particularly with a specialist trade like scaffolding or even, you know, there are other subcontract trades like that, what you can see is the passion for it, and I think is celebrating the stuff that you do, the NASC. Look, this is why we do this. This is it. That comes out in spades through those audits, because you know, by digging deep and asking those questions, you can see how a question's answered. If it's reacted like yes, but then it's this is that, and do you know what I mean? It really does. I actually think bring out a bit more detail in that respect, which shows whether you're going through the motions or not.
Yeah. And you think that's shared down up from the top to bottom? I mean, and how do we ensure that they understand, you know, your QSs, for example, they go the NASC audit and they talk like you?
Yeah, it is a perennial issue for everything, is top-down communication and getting all the way down to the boots on the ground. And all I can say from a Kier construction point of view is we are very keen, and often we're posting training seminars, giving people at the right time access to specific materials. If I've got a big project right at the beginning, right, let's get the SHE manager down to go through the scaffolding requirements and what the NASC does. It's a lot easier to say than it is to do. And again, I'm very lucky I'm on a major projects point of view. Part of my job now at the moment is trying to make those connections at a local site level on the £5 million school, and trying to remind people that there's an awful lot of literature out there. There's an awful lot they can go and read and be trained to do, but they've got to remember it at the right time. So yeah, I think I'll have a chat with Jed again. It's about what the next level of training is, and we give training to commercial staff every third Friday. They need to know things technically about scaffolding and such like that. So it's a constant scheme, if you like, a philosophy to try and train people as much as possible, make it targeted though at the right time.
Yeah, brilliant answer. I know David's got his hand raised, but just over to Robert first for any.
I'm going to be honest, I'm probably not as close as I should be to the audit that you provide. However, I've just opened up our scaffolding standards that we would adhere to on every single site, and our health and safety leads would be mandating these standards. It's one document that we have that is also forms part of our pre-qualification. There's 12 mentions to the NASC in there straight away, including links to websites, guidance documents. So it might not be myself that's been through the full audit process and fully understood it, but I'm sure that our health and safety team have been through that when they've created these standards and made sure we're aligned as a business.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, so that without knowing what document you're referring to, that's encouraging. However, what we do sometimes here, or our members here, is working to NASC guidance, those rather than like actually be audited by the NASC. So that might be something, you know, I'd like you to possibly take away, Robert, and maybe look further into and maybe change some of that terminology rather than accepting, well, yeah, we bought NASC's TG20 or SG4, so therefore we are equivalent, because there isn't an equivalent. There's only NASC.
It doesn't mention equivalent. All it would state is that if you're not NASC, you'd have to be approved by the HSQE manager, operational director, and construction director of the business unit before an order can be placed. So it does give that flexibility, but it doesn't mandate. That's coming back to earlier.
Okay. Sorry, David, do you want to come in?
Yeah, from obviously the subcontractors side of view now, we get asked by main contractors to be Construction Line Gold, to be CHAS, Achilles, SMAS, you name all the other acronyms that we have to sign up to and pay an absolute fortune to get all of these certificates for. And quite honestly, none of them are relevant to our industry. And the only one that's relevant is the NASC audit and the certification we get from NASC membership. The NASC auditors are independent, so they come out. It's not the NASC marking its own homework. We have independent auditors that come out and verify that we're actually doing what we say we're doing and in compliance with the audit that happens there. And that should give every main contractor the confidence that we are, in our specialist environment, doing what we should be doing and doing it safely. Getting a CHAS certificate, with a great respect to CHAS, they don't come and look at what scaffolding is. I don't think there's really any scaffolding questions on it. The same with construction line gold. All that people are looking for there is to make sure you've got policies in place and asking to make sure that you've got a health and safety policy, all the basic things. The NASC audit is actually coming out and looking at your scaffolding, actually coming out and looking at how your business is set up to make sure you've got the right split on your advanced scaffolders, so that you've got the right supervision, that your owners are directly employed by the business. You're looking at all the different parts of the audit to make sure that you are the scaffolding contractor that these main contractors are looking for. So the fact we have to get all these other certificates is a real bugbear, because all we're doing is filling in the same questions, just in a different format. It's very time consuming, and quite honestly, it costs a fortune, and they're only costs that get put back onto the main contractor as part of our overheads. So if they were looking to streamline and actually make this sort of more competitive, look at us as a specialist and say, look for the NASC membership, the certification, rather than having to look for these other certificates that quite honestly don't really cover our industry or are not really relevant.
That's very well said, David. In NASC, you trust is the takeaway we'd like every main principal contractor to come away from, and we need to do more. And as all part of it has to be NASC policy that we an information membership. It's to have the opportunity to discuss with ISG and Kier today, remind them of who we are and what we do, and how serious we are about being the best at what we do, and we need to have more of these conversations with our growing membership. Very well said, David. Thank you. Sort of final conclusions really on today. We started with Simon. I'm going to come to Simon and ask you, Simon, your key takeaway from today. Has it been valuable to you? Or
yeah, it's been very positive, and I'm happy to hear some of the things that have been said. They're very positive, and let's progress. Let's move forward to the next one.
Yeah, brilliant. David, your sort of key takeaway from today, and have you found it?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been nice to speak to Dave and Robert. Thank you for coming on and sort of coming into sort of the lion's den, so to speak, and sort of putting yourselves forward for that one. So thank you very much. And yeah, it's all about just speaking to one another and actually getting everything set up right in the first place, and we can avoid a lot of the problems that we all encounter on site when things are rushed. If we plan it properly, there's a good chance that we'll get it right.
Well done. Dave Harris.
Yeah, well, Dave, thank you for inviting me on. Like everyone said, I think there's no one in this industry. A few of us might have fallen into it, but you don't stay in it unless you're passionate about what you do. And I think passion really stands out. And again, the passion to have that relationship. We want to build good buildings. We want to do them safely. We want to walk past and say, we did that. And that's very obvious by the questions that we've had and the other speakers, is that passion's still there, and it's infectious as well. It's our responsibility to pass that down onto other people.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, Robert, final words.
I just want to thank you for everyone that's joined today. It's been insightful, being honest, and hopefully we can move in the right direction and look at changing some of the habits we've got into.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Well, we will be sharing this with you, and we hope that ISG and Kier take it away and share the link with your team members, because there's no point just having this meeting and it just kind of ending there. We need to do more on that. So we'll be in touch with you, and we want to harness and develop these relationships we have with you, and we're happy to come in and do presentations to your team members if that helps, you know, to cement what it is we're doing. That's it. Thanks for everyone for joining the webinar from the spectating point of view, and also for the panel. Thank you once again, and we'll see you on the next one.